Guys, Naisha here, just an average girl. And earlier this week, I was blessed with the opportunity to sit down and chat with the most influential YouTubers that I have met that are, like me, Transformer fans. We had a large group, but unfortunately, two of them weren't able to make it. Now, most of our topics were about would Optimus Prime have survived if Hot Rod didn't intervene? Or the controversy between the G1 Transformers versus Michael Bay's Transformers, also known as Bayformers. I had so much fun. And I learned a lot of things. Things from which I can never unsee again. So, I hope you enjoy this video, and now I present to you the Cybertronian Council.
Devastator, actually gets his hands on Hot Rod, Cup, Springer, and RC, and is like he's ready to smash them to pieces when Optimus finally arrives. So Optimus arrives just in the nick of time, and then says Dinobots destroyed Devastator.
Wait,
now we don't see that
now?
because they cut the way that the.
What about the cutscene when Ultra Magnus brings in the rest of the crew? And
that
starts
actually that actually happens during the whole charge. So here, Grimlock, meet Grimlock Love Challenge, and then Megatron must be stopped. The Decepticon.
I forgot about Grimlock.
What's that?
I forgot about Grimlock.
Right. So we got that whole scene happening, and Optimus makes his charge, and notice that they haven't picked the song "The Touch" yet. They said we hear an inspiring anthem of courage and strength and triumph like Eye of the Tiger. So they hadn't even picked the touch yet. So the Decepticons attempt to block his charge, and Prime, like a power block, transforms into a truck and barrels into them, sending Decepticons flying like shards of glass hit by a 45. Finally, he is engulfed by an incoming swarm and looks like his attack is foiled. Then Megatron, as he commands his troop, their defenses are broken. Let the slaughter begin. And that's when Devastator smashes through the wall. Then Ultra Magnus fights with Sideswipe and everybody. Like where their defenses are broken.
So I have to. That's right. So I have to take Ultra Magnus out of the equation.
So yeah. So the Ultra Magnus comes in, rolls in car carrier mode with Sideswipe, Red Alert, and Trax, and they fight off against. But yeah, no, he comes in, and so then Dirge tackles Optimus at one point. That's a question you should ask yourself. That's the reason why when he says, right, exactly. So Dirge tackles Prime, but then you notice that Prime does. That's a question you should ask yourself. The way he comes up is like this, and he comes up,
right.
It's because Dirge had tackled Prime.
Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron.
And,
yeah, the storyboard
here. Hot Rod, Cup, Daniel, RC, Blaster, Perceptor are fighting their way to the Battle of Titans. In other words, they're trying to get there. Ultra Magnus is fighting the Constructicons, or running off from the Constructicons. Hot Rod, Cup, Daniel, RC, Blaster, and Perceptor are fighting other Decepticons. And Hot Rod notices that Prime takes a hit, a really bad hit. It says here that like Prime, hurls himself from Prime, both tumble into the walls of the city, denting the walls, causing electrical panels and short-circuiting around them. So like this is like when you see this thing happen, like I've got to help. we've got to save Prime. Like that's they're all fighting. Like that's the whole thing. Everybody is in this fight to win. So
So should I put my crime scene away? Like, is that what you're telling me? Because I still like to talk about
not
this.
all your scenes.
Oh, I love
and this
it.
fight's more brutal. Even in the written script, it's more brutal. In the storyboards, which I can bring up, are more brutal.
Yeah, for example, Megatron and Prime, if we want to go there, they literally did some kung fu moves, which I'm shocked they didn't add that.
Yeah,
Megatron
there was
did a
kung fu moves in the
roundhouse
storyboards. They might have been animated. You know, they might have been animated. So
I'm telling you, there's got to be a petition.
Prime
so
caught
this
the
whole
foot.
fight is really brutal. And like Megatron, like the steel spear, he pierces his side, sticks him as he charges Megatron. Like you can see, like there's a lot more violence in the written script. There's more violence in the storyboards. They were supposed to really brutally beat the living crap. This was supposed to be their final fight. They were going like, at each other, and like Megatron was not intending to allow Prime to live out of this one.
No, but there's no more.
Farewell,
At this point, Megatron's personality, he's like, no more retreat, no more. I agree with you. No more retreat, no more.
And Megatron says, "Who claws his fingers and digs them into Prime's eyes?" Yeah, I'll rip out your optics. When you see the animation, you notice that Prime is holding back Megatron's hand from doing this. In the script, it says he's actually clawing at him. It's much more like vividly violent. And then he wins the judo toss and sends Megatron skidding face first into steel rubber, showers of sparks. He crashes into the side of the city. On Hot Rod, he dispatches a Decepticon and turns to Prime. That's showing him Optimus. So we know that Hot Rod was fighting another Decepticon at this moment. And we don't know, it doesn't say, it just says he dispatches the Decepticon. Cup knocks back 2 Decepticons. Finish him off, Prime, do it now. And he spots his gun on the ground ahead of him. And then, so Megatron sees this gun, and we know from the scene, like...
The rest is history.
Right. Prime can't see the gun. We don't know if his eyes were damaged. Right? And we also know that there was rubble hiding that gun. Megatron crawled to this gun. Like, Prime actually let him crawl his way to the gun. If you actually time it, I think from the time that he says, "No more Optimus Prime, grant me mercy, I beg of you," to the time he picks up the gun, I believe it's like 9 seconds. Like, if you actually time it.
Yeah, it was after when he said sterner stuff was when Megatron picked up the gun.
Exactly.
Other than that, the whole time he was crawling to go get it.
Exactly. And as you're watching that sequence happen, the gun's right there. Now, we don't know how far, like, the distance between Hot Rod, Megatron, Prime. Well, all we know is that Hot Rod was in a position that he can see the gun.
Right.
Prime couldn't see the gun. Megatron was going for the gun. Megatron picks up the gun, and he has it long enough, like, for then Hot Rod to say, you don't, Megatron. And he runs really fast because Hot Rod is like, one of the newer Autobots. He's young. He's like Blur. He can run pretty quickly. Tries to tackle Megatron, but he's not strong enough to beat Megatron. We know that he's not more, powerful enough. Now, he sees him go for the gun, but how long does it take him to aim? Now, I also want to point out, though, if you want to talk about those arm cannons, take this into consideration. Was he out of ammo? How long would it have taken him to aim? And was his eagerness to jump head first his most prompt? Like, we've got to save Prime. I don't care what it takes. Think about this. Sideswipe and Sunstreaker are very much like Hot Rod.
Right. Warriors. Right. And like, not only that, but the younger, brasher kind of characters and everything like that too. So, of course...
They jump head first. They ask questions later. They might shoot. They might jump in. They don't care if they themselves get hurt. they are not worried about they themselves getting hurt. They themselves are worried about taking out the villain. In a Plague of Insecticons,
Hot Rod's the Cavalier, right?
Hot Rod's
Cavalry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in specifically, we're going with if we're going it with looking at this, Sideswipe and Sunstreaker would have done the same thing. Cliff Jumper would have done the same. Cliff Jumper did the same thing in changing gears. I don't care, I've got to move. And he jumps in and he gets zapped by the shield. And then like, Cliff Jumper, he made it. Where am I? What happened to me? Right? Sideswipe and Sunstreaker in a Plague of Insecticons. They're in car mode. They come in, they tackle Megatron. Megatron beats the crap out of Sunstreaker and Sideswipe, picks up Sideswipe, tosses him. And then Skyfire catches him. That's no way to travel, little buddy. Yeah, next time I'll call a cab. Now you're looking at that sequence happen, and you're wondering to yourself, is any different than what a character like Hot Rod would do? You know,
True.
Hot Rod is doing the same thing that his fellow Autobots would do. He's just younger. He's just not as powerful. He's not as strong as Sideswipe or Sunstreaker because, Hot Rod specifically. Rodimus, when he gets the Matrix, that's a different story.
We know
this.
Hot Rod is built for speed.
Right. And we know this because Hot Rod, look at how Hot Rod had to fight Galvatron at the end of the movie. That fight is one of the most beautiful sequences and fights in the movie because Hot Rod realizes he's not strong enough to beat Galvatron. So what does he try to do? He tries to beat him from a distance. He also knows he does hit and runs. He learned from earlier experiences.
Right.
You want to talk about why didn't he use his blasters? Because he was young and impetuous. He learned from a bad experience to now he has to face an upgraded Megatron, a more powerful Megatron, a Megatron who gloats about the fact that he killed Optimus Prime. First, he has Hot Rod around his neck.
First, Prime. Then Ultra Magnus. And now, you. It's a pity you Autobots die so easily, or I might have a sense of satisfaction now.
Galvatron gloats about the fact that he killed Optimus Prime. Galvatron loves the fact that he killed Optimus Prime. In fact, in Return of Optimus Prime Part 2, there is a wonderful sequence that was cut maybe either for censors or for time. But, and I can bring up the script, and you can actually find it on the Sunbow archive. But in the script, Galvatron, like when they mentioned Jessica Morgan says, there's enough here to make you impervious, Optimus, and coat you, right? And Galvatron's, oh, you mean to coat yourself, don't you? I don't need you anymore, Optimus. So much for your resurrection.
Like, as soon as he found out.
Right. Right. Galvatron found out. So Galvatron then goes, I killed you once as Megatron. I'll kill you again. That was Megatron's words. Galvatron's words. Galvatron
so much for your
gloated
resurrection.
He was so happy that he's the one that killed Prime that it was like one of his greatest accomplishments.
Crowning achievement. Yep.
Exactly. So to Galvatron, or even as Megatron, like, I crushed Optimus Prime with my bare hands. You exaggerate, right? Like, he's saying, I'm the one who killed Prime, remember? I'm the one who, like, he's so, like, doesn't matter that Hot Rod
Give me the cookie.
Yeah, I'm the one who did it. I'm the one who pulled the trigger. And then on top of that, so many of us are quick to not forgive Hot Rod, yet who was the one who dubbed Hot Rod Rodimus Prime?
Yeah,
but that may have actually been a couple of things, because that could have actually been opportunity, because like the Matrix section needed to get rid of Galvatron and needed to like figure out how to. So like, what if it was Bumblebee? What if it was Bumblebee who was actually there and everything? What if it was like Alita 1? What if it was?
I could have seen that happen. That wouldn't have been too bad.
What if I told you that it was that Optimus knew it was Hot Rod when he was passing the Matrix to Ultra Magnus?
But
Well,
that's
yeah,
because
the whole
Matrix might have-
blue light in the background. Yeah, nah.
No, right
that was a
before
foreshadowing of
before
events,
that
but
point.
what if it was?
I will pass the matrix of leadership to you as it was passed to me.
But Prime, I'm just a soldier. I'm not worthy. Nor was I. But one day, an Autobot shall rise from our ranks and use the power of the Matrix to light our darkest hour.
Yeah, that could have been anybody.
Ultra Magnus.
He knew on his deathbed because the matrix of leadership had already, because the matrix of leadership was already knew it was going to be Hot Rod kind of thing. That was,
Yeah, of course,
that was the
because
underlying
it's got
thing.
that
Right,
mystical
and say
foreshadowing,
The mystical
of
force.
sight beyond sight kind of thing, right?
And that was the
Like-
thing, that on his deathbed, as he's passing it, he knows he's going to pass it to Ultra Magnus because he knew that Ultra Magnus was a temporary leader. He knew Ultra
Can I say
Magnus.
something?
Yep.
Wait.
I'll stand correct. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Even in
Let's say that
season
about
3,
Ultra Magnus.
yeah, that guy in season 3. So yeah, Rodimus Prime went into the Matrix so many times, and he saw
Mhm.
all the dead Autobots and this stuff. So
He saw
that's
Optimus
supporting
too.
your point, ironically. It saw Optimus too. So supporting your point, that the Matrix is practically clairvoyant. So
Right.
Prime already
Right.
knew, but he didn't tell him. He had the whole Doctor Strange thing. Like, Tony, if I tell you this, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's my
Yep.
theory. Yeah.
Yep.
So
That's
I
a
buy
pretty
that.
good way.
I don't like
Now
it,
remember
but I
something.
buy that.
Now
Yeah.
they eventually retconned it from other continuities, that within almost every continuity, the matrix of leadership itself is a conduit to that universe's version of Primus. And even though Primus doesn't technically exist in the cartoon, he does retroactively through other means. So like that the even in the Rebirth, when Alpha Trion is talking to Optimus Prime within Vector Sigma, he's saying, don't question Vector Sigma's motives. Like, basically, there is more to Vector Sigma that you do not know. Before Cybertron was, I was, which is, I know it's a God thing, right?
Right,
especially
right.
for those of us who
Well,
are
Vector Sigma, technically,
Oh.
he has a right to say that.
right.
What?
Wait.
Wasn't Primus within Call of the Primitives when he was telling his story about how he was this being of light, doesn't have a body? I could have sworn.
That is Japanese continuity, but like Japanese continuity kind of readjusts, that kind of like takes that as that was Primus's essence, and it actually it did a time teleport thing, but it's the Japanese try to convolute that episode in order to try to make more sense of it. And
Okay.
Wait a second.
It actually broke it. Continuity.
Wait a second, Primal. You're
broke
going to be
it.
the one. You're going to be the one to ask about this. Okay, the Vector Sigma and the Oracle, are they two in one, or are they actually separate entities? Because because the Oracle actually had a way of
my
reformatting.
understanding, I believe they're supposed to be the same being. It's weird because it doesn't really. I believe that if because the continuity keeps changing. You know what I mean? Like, because they've changed it from previous. From previous series. I just want to double check my information on that, like real quick. Let me just,
because I know the Oracle actually had a way of reformatting the Maximals
In
into
Beast
the upgraded
Wars.
Maximals, and
Right.
into Beast Machines. But then, so Vector Sigma is actually like it's a spark bearer and everything in a way, and everything. It actually gives you life and everything, right? So like, I'm actually wondering if they're actually the same, if they're the same thing, or if they're actually two separate gods or something on Cybertron.
it was all that it was. It was the Oracle was the essence of. They're two separate beings. The Oracle was the essence of Primacron's assistant.
Correct.
And he was more so explaining things from his point of view, how to stop Primacron. That's all that it was. Primacron,
That's why I kept going.
Primacron
like this.
is the one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right.
I'm actually
they're
now
two
I'm actually
separate
like
things.
wondering like how many are there any other gods for Cybertron besides because like I'm actually wondering like how their gods and deities would actually be as opposed to like and that would actually be a great storyline. Their gods and deities opposed to their demons and that sort of thing, and their devils.
To my understanding, with the original 13, the way the original 13 are supposed to work is that they themselves are almost supposed to be like gods,
Right.
you know, but they're created by Primus.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense because
And
they keep changing it. They keep changing the history on that. Like the other thing they've changed is who is the 13. They've changed certain members of the 13. I'll give an example. In original G1 continuity, or at least Marvel Comics, the last Autobot, who is in the last 2 issues of the Marvel Comics, you know, he's a giant ship, and basically, if you actually look at him, you're gonna go, "That's Vector Prime." But and then if you look at his robot face, it's the Ark from the War for Cybertron trilogy, that Ark,
Right,
which recently came out. That looks literally like the last Autobot. Well, that is apparently Autonomous Maximus. He's the last Autobot, and he's one of the 13. Well, they took him out of being one of the 13 in the Aligned continuity. And in the Aligned continuity, it's an unknown Prime who actually became Optimus Prime. So it makes no sense. Like, it doesn't make any sense because they keep changing it continuity-wise. But if we're just going Generation 1, if we're just sticking to Generation 1, like, Oracle is just a different being. Like, we'll just...
Okay.
So, we're going off on a tangent. I don't want to go too far on a tangent with this, because we're more focused on the 86 movie and one of the most important, you know, aspects to a lot of people. I think the most important aspect is the thing that still gives me goosebumps to this day is Arise Rodimus Prime. And then, you know, Galvatron realizes, oh crap, I've got a Prime on my hands.
Right.
You know, it's about to get real. And it does get real. And he gets tossed out like yesterday's news. Ready for the scrap heap, if you know that one.
I think one question actually that kind of plagues me is, was Optimus Prime built, or was he chosen by the Matrix? I know Optimus Prime was rebuilt by
Alpha Trion.
Yeah.
Right. Was he given the Matrix and then became Optimus Prime, or was his body built for the Matrix?
I think his body was rebuilt by Alpha Trion in order to house the Matrix. Like,
because I think Alpha Trion saw it coming.
Yeah, Alpha Trion saw that Optimus Prime was called to be the next Prime. And so he built him into the next Prime, basically, and gave him the
I was actually wondering if they started like from a base body or something, like he actually rebuilds Orion packs and everything to be tougher. But then all of a sudden gets the Matrix, and then gets like a secondary upgrade or something.
Yeah,
you know,
because Alpha Trion was carrying the Matrix after Sentinel Prime was killed, right? So Megatron kills Sentinel Prime, and Alpha Trion retrieves the Matrix, if you recall from 5 Faces of Darkness. So he's the one carries the Matrix for many years. He wasn't really leading the Autobots; he just had the Matrix. You know, he didn't mean to be like. He knew he wasn't called to be the leader, but he knew he had to pass it to the next leader, to the next Prime. And fate had its way, and Orion Pax was, you know, killed by Megatron. And Alpha Trion probably had that essence of the Matrix telling him, you need to build him for the Matrix. And I think that this is why I believe that Ultra Magnus is built from Dion, is because Ultra Magnus was probably built under similar schematics because he can house the Matrix as well. But if you notice, the Matrix didn't fit right. Now that was on purpose. Flint Dilley actually said to me, think about King Saul and King David. King Saul was chosen by the people. King David was chosen by God. So, right? And the Matrix didn't fit Ultra Magnus like the kingship didn't fit King Saul. And that's the reason why, if you notice, he put the Matrix in, he had to readjust it, he put it back in place. That's what Flint Dilley said about Ultra Magnus. That was on purpose. That was deliberate. They purposefully wanted you to know Ultra Magnus was only a temporary leader. And not to say Ultra Magnus is a bad character. He fits a great role. His purpose of being that second in command is great, because it doesn't matter if Optimus is leading. It doesn't matter if Rodimus is leading.
Well, it's in the
Ultra
name.
Magnus as second in command, as his right-hand man, is perfect, because now you've got someone who's competent, who is able to give advice, who is able to fight battles, who is able to lead, while Optimus or Rodimus are handling some more presidential style things. You know, some of the more on top brass kind of things. He can send Ultra Magnus out to lead a squad. Rodimus did that a lot in season 3. You know?
I figured it was because, he had his Cybertronian unsolved mysteries to do, so he couldn't really take the role of leadership.
That could be it.
Cup and Hot Rod just bought it. Face it, Magnus. The Decepticons are gonna dog us until they see us dead.
Then that's exactly what they're gonna see.
Too.
Well, there's that too, because he had a lot of crimes to like go and busted everything,
Right. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the unsolved mysteries, which I did a whole intro thing like that. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, no, I mean that's the thing about Ultraman. He felt really confident in that soldier position, that second in command, like that lieutenant, like that, one of the top brass. Yes, okay, we had Ironhide and Prowl and Jazz, and they were supposed to be top brass as well. And they were. They were fighting alongside. I mean,
but actual
Jazz and Perceptor. What's that? Say again,
actual
CJ?
Second in command was not their function. But actual second in command was not their function. I see you were going with that.
Yeah, like they were there, and they were, in other words, you can. I almost think about the Autobots as they never really had a second in command.
I always assumed that Jazz and Prowl would have actually had the second in command, as far as sharing that position and everything like
that's
that.
That's exactly what I'm saying. There really isn't an actual second in command. It's more so Prowl.
It was never on
Jazz,
paper.
Ironhide, Ultra Magnus, those guys.
Well,
are really there, and they're on Optimus's right and left hands. Like they're surrounding him. And each of them have just as much authority over other troops, so to speak. Right. You know what I mean? Like Jazz can lead tell the squads to transform. Prowl can lead a squad in the battle. Ultra Magnus can lead a squad in the battle. Ironhide can lead a squad in the battle, because each of them has that much authority, so to speak. Even though Ironhide's function is different, he's supposed to be security.
Right.
Prowl as a strategist. You know what I mean? Like they have their functions, but their functions, sometimes overtake their purpose. Like, you know what I mean? Like what their roles are, like what their tech specs actually say. And that's really where you have to take into consideration, like each of them have their strengths and what they're supposed to do, but yet at the same time, they do have a level of authority. So, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing that the Autobots don't have just one person hoarding over the leadership, or, because Starscream lets it get to his head that when Megatron's not around, I'm in charge, and Megatron is
perfectly clear.
All of a sudden, he's like, "I'm the leader now."
Right, and so that's the thing that Megatron is always like, I'm the leader. Everyone follows me. The Decepticons live because Megatron lives. Like that's kind of how the whole idea behind it. But yet, what is the whole ideal of the Decepticons? Peace through tyranny, conquering, destruction. Why? Because we're built for war. No one should tell us that we can't conquer. No one should tell us that we can't conquer the universe, because we're built for it.
I always thought that the Decepticons' primary function was deceiving and conning people like Swindle or something.
That's why they're called Decepticons,
right?
That's why they're called Decepticons. I did find.
I think Swindle wrote the book.
Swindle wrote the book. It's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah, but you see where I'm going with it, like how the Autobots each have their strengths and their weaknesses, and how they're all really looking for how to make sure they care about each other. They are looking out for each other, and I love some of the episodes, because you guys know I'm a big fan of Rodimus, so the episodes that I really found it fascinating were the ones where they gave him so much story. 5 Faces of Darkness. Why did I have to be the chosen one?
The The burden hardest to bear.
You know, burden hardest to bear, where he loses the Matrix and he has to learn about the responsibility, the guillotine, you know, as it is, like, and he has to learn, like, you know, so what should I expect? Expect nothing. Well, yeah, because if you think about winning the whole time, you have to think about its alternative, losing, you know, right? So think about nothing. Like, just think about what is one obliged to do. And that is the thing that, you know, burden hardest to bear teaches. Then there's the episode, The Ultimate Weapon, you know, which is another great episode, another great Rodimus episode where, you know, he's got so many Autobots going left and right, and First Aid's like, I don't want to fight, you know, and Rodimus is like, ugh, you know, how much responsibility do I have to, if I can't even keep one Autobot on a team? And then at the end of the episode, what happens? He goes, I have to use my mind. I learned that I use my mind, and you just have to learn what you have to offer people, you know, to find out what your strengths are. Like, in other words, where you know, you learn your worth, you learn your self-worth. And I think,
isn't it ironic that Ultra Magnus lacks his confidence, but he's willing to give confidence to others? Isn't that so ironic?
Yes. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
But I guess it would have been nice if they made Ultra Magnus, or not Ultra Magnus, Rodimus likable. Now, from what I've heard from the comic books, he's totally different than the TV, and it's like, okay, then why didn't you bring that into the fray? Maybe I would have had more respect for him than
by the time you see Rodimus in the comics, time has passed. A lot of time has passed. So, the first time they introduced Rodimus Prime in the comics in the UK stories is 2008. So we're talking 3 years from the movie. Season 3 happens during 2006.
Yep.
Now, mind you, it's a different continuity, but the difference is that 3 years have happened now. Rodimus has had time, and Rodimus has lost he's kind of a little more in the UK stories. Rodimus doesn't take any prisoners. There's a scene in and I'll actually show this to you because since you asked, there's a scene in the UK comics where Rodimus Prime learns his lesson not to grant a Decepticon mercy.
Yes, because that was the one with him and Cup, right?
Yes, and that was in I should bring that up right now. I believe it was at Time Wars. And here we are. Let me share screen. Galvatron wanted Dead or Alive. There we go. So, like, the Decepticons are fighting the Autobots. You got Cup, Blur, Wreck-Gar, and Rodimus. And, let's move that out of the way. You know, and as they're fighting, you know, the Decepticons are like, they're just taking, you know, no prisoners, basically. And this is like this one Decepticon's like, you know, he's sitting there, you're gonna beg for your life, Rodimus. And Rodimus doesn't stop. So here it is. No, please spare me, Prime. I beg you, grant me mercy. You who are without mercy for yourself. Request
that sounds
denied. You know?
Request denied.
Request denied. Like Rodimus learned, don't take any prisoners. And but then at the same time, he's still a hero.
Yeah, good. We just terminated 8 sentient beings.
And Cup says to, hey, Prime, we did show these Decepticreeps, or did we? You know, what the heck? We did good. Good, we just terminated 8 sentient beings. Okay, they were Decepticons, the lowest of the low, but they were still living creatures just the same. Mm-hmm. So there's still remorse because he's not a villain. He was forced to execute. You know, something that I know that when we get into the next topic, that about, you know, the Autobots being heroes in the comic books and in the cartoons back in G1, where they aren't necessarily so in later continuities. But yeah, but you see what I'm like Rodimus kind of learned that, like, his lesson by the time of 2008. So what Flint Dilley said to me, and a lot of people have asked him this question, was, why did you make Rodimus the way that he was in season 3? Well, we wanted Rodimus to grow. We wanted to see the leader grow into his role. And the burden hardest to bear was supposed to be that, like, okay, he's it now. He's ready to go. But unfortunately, mandate says you got to bring Optimus back. Well, you could have done it. You could have done it and kept him as Rodimus. That would have been better. But they didn't. So
yeah, I kind of wish they actually kind of like made him like Rodimus Minor or something like that, maybe because because Rodimus Minor was actually a name for a while. And,
that was a trademark.
Like a secondary,
that was a trademark name. That was more
could have
so
actually
because,
been like a secondary. You know,
yeah, they were trying to come up with a name because they didn't have Rodimus. I think they couldn't just name him Rodimus Prime, but they just named him Rodimus something. They needed they didn't have Hot Rod because I think Mattel at that point had Hot Rod trademarked. So they had to, and I think that because I think it was either Mattel or I forgot who it was who had the name trademark, and that was the reason why they called him. That was during the 2000s when they reissued the toy,
right?
So it was just a name trademark thing. Same thing with Silver Streak, was just a name trademark thing,
right?
I think they called him Optimus Prime with Power Master Optimus Prime with Apex Armor was the name.
I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, which is basically the God Jinride version of the toy.
Right.
Which was great, but
maybe
I remember when that toy came out. As much as I love the fact that they brought Optimus back, I would have loved to have seen more Rodimus Prime also co-leading, which I did, which is one of the things I liked.
Agreed.
Though I'm not a big fan of the Headmaster series.
The Japanese Headmaster series?
The Japanese Headmaster series, because
I'm still watching that.
Yeah. Where in episode 3, like Optimus, Hot Rod gets the Matrix and gets it recharged and becomes Rodimus Prime again. And then for 5 minutes, Optimus and Rodimus are both fighting the Decepticons together.
Yes.
Right.
And then Optimus dies again.
조강! 콤보 조강!
Yep.
Yeah.
Which that I didn't care for. It was like, you don't just go off and kill him again. Just let there be
just
two
because
leaders.
they could.
But Primal, what about the marketing? Oh, the marketing.
Yeah. Marketing was the main reason why
What about our toys and our cash stack?
Now in Headmasters, was that also where Ultra Magnus gets killed by 6 shots?
Yes, about 18 episodes in. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't remind me about that. I'm still miserable about that.
That was insane, man. And an actual funeral.
Yep.
Oh.
They actually had flowers and everything. Like it's the same thing as for Sven in the Japanese version of Voltron.
Yes.
Like where they killed him, and it's like, instead they brought him back, but it was supposed to be his brother.
The Netflix one, real quick, a spinoff on that. On the Netflix one, they made fun of Spin for a minute. You're like,
yes, I did see that.
Line?
Yeah.
I remember that.
He said, "What do you think being have a Swedish accent?"
Yeah. I think they brought a guy in with a Swedish accent, didn't they? Like they were on the show.
That was nice.
Terrible.
That was nice.
Yeah. But I mean, we all loved Voltron. We all loved the music, but the Japanese original with the violence,
Of
the dismemberments.
It's like the meme says, just choose violence.
Always.
Yep.
Don't be the big man. Choose violence.
But you see where I'm going with it, though. Like with the movie, with the movie, like what? There was marketing. Yeah, they were trying to do certain things, but they were trying to have a new hero learn over the course of the movie too. There's even one of the earlier drafts in the movie. One of the earlier drafts of the movie after Optimus Prime's death, Ultra Magnus calls on the Autobots to roll out. And then before Hot Rod and Cup and RC roll out, Hot Rod says, "Hey, I really wish I didn't do that." And RC says to Hot Rod, "I actually think it's one of the bravest things you ever done." And Cup, it was, Cup says, "Yeah, it was Megatron who killed him." And so they assure him, but he has that remorse. And so as the movie progresses, you're seeing his Hot Rod's actions are more noble. He saves Cup from the squid. He, lets hell with the demolition derby. The whole two of them are holding it together. He's the one, when Ultra Magnus says, like they fix him and they're like, where is the Matrix? It's gone. And with it, all hope. No, Galvatron has it. Then we've got to destroy Galvatron. Hot Rod takes command at that point. Hot Rod literally becomes the leader of the Autobots. Literally, he just takes command. Ultra Magnus didn't even question it. It was weird. But Hot Rod kind of took command at that point. So we watched happen from the death of Optimus up until that moment.
Character evolution in 1 hour.
Yeah, is Hot Rod grew as a character. And he became the leader, and by the end of the movie, he's now the leader. And he was called by Optimus. And then in Dark Awakening, Rodimus gives the Matrix back to Optimus because he's so eager to give it back. But Optimus says to Hot Rod, monsters, they made me a weapon.
Monsters, they made me a weapon to destroy the very ones I loved in life. But you will save them. Rodimus Prime.
Like he's saying, like, no, you're supposed to be Rodimus Prime. Like Optimus is like literally like saying, no,
I had my chance.
You want to give it up? I'm not letting you give this up. I called you for a reason. You know what it reminds me of? Gideon. He is
biblical terms.
Yes.
Biblical terms.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Gideon is pressing wheat, and an angel says to him, "There you are, mighty man of valor." Are you kidding? This guy is sitting here in a wheat press, and he's scared, and he's told by an angel, "You're a mighty man of valor." You know what I'm saying? Like, what it literally is saying is that it doesn't. The whole message behind the character of Rodimus Prime is you're called to be a leader. You're called to be a leader.
But I was actually expecting Rodimus to be off screen going.
Yeah, that's
like,
the thing. Think about it. It's a message to you, all of you, and it's a message to me as well. If we're called to do something, and we can be great at something, doesn't matter how we feel about it. We can.
Message.
That's the message. We
That's
can.
message.
We want to give it up. We want to give it to somebody else. Somebody else can do it. Somebody else can do it. They're better. Moses didn't want to. Then bring your brother Aaron in. Rodimus Prime, leader of the Autobots, doesn't want to be leader of the Autobots. Doesn't want that responsibility, but he's called to. And
here we are.
If he actually does it, he can do it. The problem is that will he? He has to step up into that. Are we willing to transform ourselves from young, naive, brash young kids and become adults and live what we're called to do?
Don't blink, Knight.
Oh my goodness!